Hi, beloveds. It's Kirk here, and I just wanted to offer you some thoughts to actually harness, focus, help bring some direction for you. And it's a very simple concept, not new to you, but just want to remind you of it, and especially in the work that we've been doing throughout our time is being body story experts. The word I want to throw out is deadline. Um, and even as I throw it out, I'd have you just notice what you feel in your body as I bring up the word deadline, or as you say deadline to yourself. What do you begin to feel in your body without even thinking about a deadline about what? I'll tell you a few quick little stories. One thing that comes to my mind immediately when I think about deadlines is just when I was a therapist and how I had a 50-minute hour. And clients would come in, and for that 50 minutes, they knew that they had that time to accomplish whatever it was that they were going to accomplish. And so in that 50 minutes, I could count on that by the time they got to the last 10 minutes, they were going to get into the juicy stuff. But the deadline really was just kind of the bracketing of you've got 50 minutes. In that 50 minutes, something can happen. And it oftentimes took some time to get there. But within that 50 minutes, you could know that people are always going to get close to or open up some of the juicy stuff that they needed to so that they could get freer, or that they can make some change, or they have some insight that was going to help them go further on their process. In all the work that we've been doing, we've got this little formula that I created for you all. We're using just the letters these days, AIH. Attention plus intention equals healing. And, when you create a deadline for yourself, what you're actually beginning to do is put some motion into an attention that with intention will create a healing. And so I remember a number of years ago, I was in grad school, big changes in my life. I was just really reconciling coming out fully as a gay man, as a gay activist, as a spiritual man, and putting lots of pieces together. And so for one of my in my master's degree, when I was about to finish my master's degree, I threw this big party. So in the party, I brought together all of my colleagues from the university. I brought together all of my Catholic social justice community. I brought together all of my charismatic friends. I brought together my mom and my sisters and brother-in-laws and family. I brought together my flaming queer friends who may have been in any of those places. So I brought together all these aspects of my life, but it all started with a deadline. I was going to throw a party. So it was from that party, though, that I really integrated a whole lot of parts of myself, because I gathered all these people together. So in the deadline of throwing this party, I did all kinds of inner work around what would it feel like to have all of those people together. I mean, Donnie and I kind of did that some even with our wedding of, we just invited the whole world to come to our wedding, and what's it going to feel like? And I remember Penny Nixon, our pastor, even asked us, what do you want to feel when this is over? Not how do you want it to go, but what do you want to feel from this experience? So when I'm talking about deadlines with you, I want to talk about deadline as a tool to take you further in your own healing, because you know, and I know, that in our own healing, you activate more of your purpose. You express your gifts more fully and freely. So deadlines. The other thing I know about deadlines too is it kind of telling that story about how my clients were when they would come to see me as a therapist, is that when you've got a deadline, it's like you've put some brackets on yourself. You know, Donnie and I in the past week have been becoming really mindful of writing down, at least for a number of days. We wrote down pretty much all of our time. And what that did was it kind of put some brackets around how we were using our time. So I became much more conscious of the use of time. In that, it became like there were these little mini deadlines that I was to work this amount of time on income generating stuff and this amount of time on this. And so there were little deadlines even within the day itself that I think has changed the energy and the productivity that I have, and I know Donnie and I both are experiencing together. So deadlines. The other piece is, you know, I know, having worked with people who were very sick and dying, and you know, doing work with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her stuff around unfinished business, that when you have a deadline, so if you know you're going to die, then you know, you got a big deadline and you want to get done in that deadline anything you possibly can. So what might be a healing deadline for you? That's what I'm going to put it, a healing deadline. What would be a healing deadline for you? What's something that you know it would be really healing to you to actually commit to, knowing that a deadline is not, you know, fixed in stone. It doesn't mean you can't ever change it, but a deadline is going to propel you and put you in motion. So it's like that thing of inertia creates disease, but motion leads you into healing. So putting in motion your attention and your intention by setting a deadline. You know, one of the things I know is I've been writing off and on, rewriting my book, Erotic Body Prayer, into a book that is all about the work of the missing thread and the work that we've been doing together. And, you know it would be really helpful to me to finish that. So I want to create a deadline for finishing that, knowing that in creating the deadline, things will start happening. I'll start feeling things in my body. I'll have emotional responses. Stories will come up just in setting a deadline. So any deadline, I want you to begin to think of now as a tool for your healing. So in this video, your homework really is, what would be a deadline that would be helpful for you to set for yourself, that will take you further in your healing process? So for me, I know one is I need to set a deadline for finishing this book. You know, there are a number of things that, and you may want to even just create a list of what are the things that would be good for me to set a deadline around. You know, organizing some of the stuff in our new space would be really helpful to have some deadlines for. So you may come up with a shopping list of 10 or 15 things, but what I want you to do is just pick one, and to use setting that deadline, and if you would, to share it with each other, so that we'll check in with each other around what it is that you created a deadline on. so that you can begin to notice what it feels like, one, to be held accountable and to be witnessed in the deadline, so that you also can talk about what are you feeling in setting that deadline itself. So I hope this is a juicy thought for you to play with, and especially as a body story expert, something that you can work with your clients around as well. I'll leave you with one last little concept or thing that we probably talked about when we did our body story expert training together. But there's a principle in psychology called paradoxical intention. It's like, again, when clients would come to me that we're talking about committing suicide. And I would use this tool of paradoxical intention, of being very empathic with them around, okay, instead of trying to tell them, no, don't do this, to actually agree with them around, okay, so you're going to do this. And just in setting some reality base around that, which was like a deadline, that they would begin to come up with, oh, but there's one more thing I want to do, or some material that they hadn't worked on. So using this deadline is kind of like a paradoxical intention. It's taking away your resistance to something by actually giving this deadline. You're allowing yourself to create a space for anything that needs to come up, any story, any feeling, anything that's blocking you from doing something, knowing that motion is going to heal you. But as long as there's an open-endedness, open-ended things tend to mean that, oh, it's going to take as long as it takes, which means it's like if you didn't have the 50-minute hour that I talked about with my clients, if you didn't have that boundary, the work probably wouldn't really happen. But with that boundary, it really causes you to kind of go, okay, I've only got this amount of time, so therefore let's get things in motion and see what erupts. So I hope you have fun with this, and I hope this is a helpful tool for you as good body or story experts begin to notice what your attention and your intention is as you set a deadline that allows you to bring about more healing. So thanks, beloveds. Love you, and have fun with this.